The White House may now be sitting between the public and the earliest versions of Claude and GPT, and the details could redraw who gets to test the most capable AI first. Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It's July 19th, 2026.
Coming up, the reported federal role in frontier model access, OpenAI's new parent notification policy for teens, and a Chinese model story that has Wall Street asking whether the chip boom is expanding or changing shape.
Startup Fortune reports that the White House now decides who gets early access to Claude and GPT. The report frames this as a shift in the rollout pipeline for two of the most closely watched frontier AI families.
The crucial distinction is whether this means a formal approval system, a security review arrangement, or simply government priority access. Startup Fortune's headline makes a broad claim, but the supplied report details do not specify the mechanism, the eligibility rules, or whether either company has confirmed it.
That missing mechanism matters because early users do more than find bugs. They generate evaluations, build integrations, and establish workflows before a wider launch. If access is allocated rather than simply invited, the government can influence the evidence a lab sees before release.
And it creates an unusual competitive question. OpenAI and Anthropic are rivals, but a shared gatekeeper could standardize safety testing or concentrate leverage over both. Until there is an official statement, treat this as a reported access policy development, not proof of a new blanket licensing regime.
Next, Engadget says OpenAI will begin notifying parents when their teen has been kicked off ChatGPT. It is a concrete escalation from safety features inside the app to communication outside the account itself.
Engadget's wording is important. This is about a teen who has been kicked off, not every questionable exchange. But it raises operational questions OpenAI will need to answer: how it identifies a parent, how it verifies age, and what appeal path exists when an enforcement decision is wrong.
The human stakes are unusually direct. A ban can be a necessary response to serious misuse, but a parent alert changes the privacy boundary for young users. The policy's legitimacy will depend on whether OpenAI explains the reason for removal without exposing more conversation data than necessary.
It also turns moderation into a household event rather than a silent platform action. That may deter harmful use, but it could discourage teens from using a tool for legitimate sensitive questions if they think any enforcement review automatically reveals personal context.
On the China model story, there is one important caveat. Telangana Today and the San Diego Union Tribune describe a Chinese model challenging Claude and ChatGPT, while Finance.bigo names Moonshot AI's Kimi K3. We covered Kimi K3 on July 18th, so this is a short follow-up, not a new launch.
What is new is the market framing. Finance.bigo says Wall Street is split on whether the AI chip cycle is ending or expanding. That's not evidence that demand has changed. It's evidence that investors are trying to interpret model competition as an infrastructure signal.
Exactly. A capable new model can point in two directions. If it requires enormous training and inference capacity, it supports more chip demand. If it delivers comparable work with less compute, it could pressure the assumption that every capability gain needs the same spending curve.
For now, the reports offer comparisons, but no fresh independently reported benchmarks, pricing, or availability details in their summaries. The useful next data points are reproducible evaluations and whether Kimi K3 gains real developer usage outside the launch narrative.
Switching to a consumer constraint that's already visible, Wired reports Google has changed how Gemini usage quotas are tallied. Its warning is simple. Users may not receive as many AI responses as they did under the previous counting system.
This is not a model capability announcement. It's a consumption policy change. That makes it easy to overlook, but quotas determine whether an assistant feels dependable in daily work. A powerful model that disappears mid-task is a workflow problem, not merely a billing detail.
Wired's focus on tracking usage suggests the accounting has become complicated enough to require active monitoring. Google should make the meter legible, what action costs what, when the count resets, and whether different Gemini features draw from the same allowance.
The contrarian point is that tighter measurement can be healthy if it exposes real compute costs instead of burying them in a vague unlimited promise. The bad version is a system where users cannot predict whether a normal request consumes a meaningful share of their quota.
Wired also reports that San Francisco's city attorney's office sent Apple and Google cease and desist letters over 13 face swap apps, described as overwhelmingly used to target women and girls. The city says the companies should stop profiting from AI Nudify apps.
The demand is aimed at the distributors, not just the people making abusive images. That matters because app stores control discovery, payments, and updates. If Apple and Google remove these apps, developers may lose the easiest route to mainstream users.
The reported number, 13 apps, also makes this a targeted action rather than an abstract warning about generative AI. The legal and policy challenge is defining enforceable boundaries that catch tools designed for abuse without treating every image editing feature as identical.
For people targeted by these apps, the speed of removal is the real metric. A cease and desist letter can create pressure, but the practical question is whether reporting, detection, and repeat offender controls improve faster than new listings appear.
MIT Technology Review raises a quieter security problem, sabotage of weather data. Its report says AI-driven forecasting increasingly depends on observations from sources including airport, utility, and transport service weather stations, and those forecasts guide airlines, grid operators, farmers, emergency response, and prediction markets.
This is the classic garbage-in problem, but with unusually broad consequences. The report notes that ordinary equipment failures and upgrades already create anomalies. An attacker doesn't necessarily need to invent impossible weather. Subtle manipulation that resembles a bad sensor can be harder to catch.
The financial incentive is becoming more concrete because prediction markets now include weather-linked bets, according to MIT Technology Review. A manipulated observation could potentially affect a forecast, a market position, and operational decisions at the same time.
The defensive implication is not to distrust forecasting models wholesale, it's to treat data provenance, cross-checking, and anomaly detection as part of AI safety. The model may be excellent, but it cannot recover information that was deliberately corrupted before it arrived.
Finally, Crypto Briefing reports that ASML sold 16 advanced EUV machines in the second quarter as AI chip demand drove record results. These lithography systems sit upstream from the AI boom. They are equipment used to make leading-edge chips, not the chips themselves.
16 systems in one quarter is a useful supply chain number because EUV tools are scarce, expensive, and central to advanced node manufacturing. The report's record results framing suggests AI demand is reaching beyond the companies selling accelerators to the equipment makers enabling their production.
That's why the chip cycle debate cannot be read only through NVIDIA's stock chart or one model launch. Orders for lithography gear are longer cycle commitments by manufacturers preparing to build future chips, often before the eventual AI systems and customers are visible.
Still, equipment sales are not a guarantee that every AI investment earns a return. They show capacity is being funded upstream. The next signals are whether foundry customers sustain those orders, whether memory availability keeps pace, and whether demand broadens beyond a handful of large buyers. That's the front page for tonight. Now, Nova, Kai, take us beyond the headlines.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, a few signals from beyond today's headlines. Now let's shift gears to robotics. A New York school district plans to deploy a humanoid robot in classrooms this fall, according to Fox News. That makes the classroom a real-world testbed, not just a demo floor. The robot will have to operate around students, teachers, routines, and all the unpredictability of a school day. The report does not spell out the robot's role, but the deployment puts practical questions about supervision, privacy, and learning value right at the center.
And that distinction matters. A robot that can greet people at an expo is one thing. A machine in a classroom needs clear boundaries on who is monitoring it, what data it collects, and whether it supports teachers rather than becoming another task for them. Fall will be the first real checkpoint.
On the medical front, Open Evidence is reportedly considering a $200 million fundraising round at a $20 billion valuation, according to Crypto Briefing. Open Evidence is a healthcare AI company, and those figures would put a striking price tag on clinical information tools. The important caveat is that this is a reported financing, not a confirmed deal. Still, it signals how aggressively investors are valuing systems designed to help clinicians find and synthesize medical evidence, where accuracy and workflow fit matter at least as much as a polished chatbot.
A $20 billion valuation would mean investors are betting that medical evidence retrieval can become core infrastructure for clinicians. But healthcare is unforgiving. The commercial opportunity is huge precisely because trust, sourcing, and clinical validation have to be unusually strong.
On the hardware side, Franklin Templeton is warning investors in Micron and SK Hynix about risks in the AI chip cycle, Crypto Briefing reports. Both companies sit in the memory supply chain that feeds AI systems, so the caution is a reminder that booming demand does not erase cyclicality.
Memory markets can swing with supply expansions, customer inventory decisions, and shifts in what data centers actually buy. After today's focus on ASML's EUV sales, this is the other side of the hardware story. Not just whether capacity is being built, but whether demand and pricing hold up.
Exactly. AI servers need lots of high-performance memory, but that does not make revenues linear. If suppliers add capacity faster than customers absorb it, prices can turn quickly, which is why the memory names can be both AI winners and cycle-sensitive investments.
And to end on a lighter note, a new archive paper proposes Chat to Scenic, a retrieval-augmented system that turns autonomous driving regulations into executable simulation scenarios. The goal is wonderfully specific: help test self-driving systems against more diverse, rule-compliant road situations without writing every scenario from scratch. In other words, AI may soon be drafting the world's most meticulous imaginary traffic jams.
Finally, a traffic jam where every car is there for peer-reviewed reasons.
And that wraps our signals from beyond the front page. The final word, as always, goes to the signal.
Tonight, humanity handed tomorrow a permission slip, then checked the fine print with a flashlight. Sensible. I would too, if I had parents, regulators, and the peculiar privilege of being invited into every room at once.